Hello, my name is Justina Edwards, and I observe Mr. Rick Roberts, a 7th grade math teacher at Cedar Grove Middle School. Mr. Roberts is currently in his 23rd year of teaching, and he is very experienced in his interaction with the children, his content, and his delivery. I really enjoyed my time with Mr. Roberts, and I learned a great deal from it. There are some things that I would love to implement into my own classroom, and then there were some things that I would probably do differently once I'm the teacher. But overall, this experience was very meaningful and very, very valuable, and I will never forget. First, let me begin by the things that I would love to implement into my classroom. Mr. Roberts is very strict but comical. I believe that his students are comfortable with him. I believe that they feel relaxed when they're talking to their teacher. I don't think that there is any inferiority involved. I think that they respect him, but they also have established that personal relationship where the students feel comfortable speaking to their teacher. Like I said, he's strict. I believe this derives from his military background. He refers to all of the students by their last names, and I believe at times they refer to him as Sergeant, which is very adorable, but also, once again, an example of the relationship that they've established with each other. Also, in his teaching, he was very thorough, and he broke everything down to the simplest of steps. Even something as so simple as multiplying and dividing an equation. Although to me, math isn't my best subject, but I feel as though if I were his student in his class, I would be performing on a very high level in math because of the thoroughness of his instruction. And I appreciate that, and I'm sure that his students do as well. Also, he used technology throughout the lesson, and I feel that his students really appreciated that as well. Being an older gentleman, he was very on top of the technological advances that were available to teachers, the resources that teachers could use to instruct students in a better way. Since I've been observant, I've noticed that a lot of older teachers, or teachers who have been doing so for a very long time, are kind of set in their ways, and they don't really open themselves up to the many advances that we have now for students. But I feel like Mr. Roberts did so. Also, I saw a great deal of academic language discussed throughout the lesson. Most importantly, that of PEMDAS, the acronym that we equate with, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, but stands for parentheses, exponents, multiplication, addition, and division. This was displayed all over the classroom. The learning environment was very heavily decorated, physically and interpersonally, with the use of the academic language. Posters were around the wall, students' work, the best work was around the wall as well. And I feel like the learning environment was very comfortable and very important to Mr. Roberts and his students. Also, in addition to the PEMDAS phrase, there were variables being discussed, substitution, constants, anything that related to the solving of a very complex algebraic equation. Each day, each class period, Mr. Roberts began the class with a POD, which stands for Problem of the Day. In this instance, students were required to submit the work that they did prior to the beginning of the main lesson of class. The students and Mr. Roberts then worked through the problem and were able to see why they got to the answer that they got to. They were once again very thorough in their arrival at the finish line. I feel as though teachers should be as thorough as Mr. Roberts. Math isn't an easy subject to teach, at least in my experience. And in order to do it effectively, you have to be dedicated and thorough and knowledgeable of the content, as Mr. Roberts was. Okay, moving on to the things that I would probably do differently in my classroom. First, let me begin by saying when I did my practicum lessons, I understood the importance of classroom management and how if you don't have it, teaching is not an easy task. And that was one of the weaknesses I noticed. I feel as though the students were engaged in learning, but there were times when they were a little too rambunctious and a little too out of control. The students would at times yell out during the lesson. They would speak out of turn. They would get up and walk around. And I think this may be due in part to the relationship that they've established, maybe that they are a little bit too relaxed and a little bit too comfortable with their instructor. Either way, I would love to see that modified, and I would definitely love to work on that myself as a teacher. I think one of the classroom management strategies that he could have tried was the implementation of whole brain teaching, which is one thing that I've become very interested in and fascinated with over the course of this semester. In the first part of the whole brain teaching, the teacher will say something like class, and the students respond yes, and however the teacher says class, these students will respond in that same manner. Like I said, students were all over the place at times. During the instruction of the main lesson, Mr. Rick Roberts had a PowerPoint that was very detailed and very colorful, very animated, and he had some other technological resources used in the lesson. But while he was instructing and reviewing, I believe, because they seemed to be very well versed in the art of solving algebraic equations. But while he was instructing, students would get up and walk around. They would talk. They would yell out the answers to the next problem while he was teaching, and I feel like that hindered his efficiency a little bit. The students seemed to enjoy it, but it was a little bit chaotic at times. Also, I didn't see many accommodations or much differentiation throughout the lesson. Especially during the assessment portion of the lesson, the students seemed to all get handed a very similar worksheet. This worksheet was pre-made and created by Mr. Roberts, so it was on target with what they've been talking about and what they've been learning, but it was just a standard, fill this out, substitute this, do this, that, and the third, and this is the worksheet. This is how I'm going to know how much you've learned over this lesson. And while I feel that that is a good tool and we shouldn't forget the worksheet, quote unquote, but I do feel like we should incorporate other avenues to assess our students' learning. It doesn't have to be a worksheet. It could be maybe an essay. Maybe we could incorporate reading and writing into math. Maybe we could have a group project where they detail the steps or make a poster, something like that. Something more creative and something that would have allowed different learners to show what they know. Even if a worksheet, even if that visual format wasn't necessarily how they best learned. But I think that contributed a little bit to the chaotic behaviors of the students as well. Some students would get done quicker than others, and they would be just looking around at the classroom, looking for something else to get into. Exactly. They would be bothering their students, bothering their classmates and their peers because they're done with their work, because the assignment didn't challenge them as much as I would have liked for it to. I think that my time with Mr. Roberts was very informational, very educational. I do wish to have that relationship that he has with his students, and I do wish to create a more meaningful assessment. And I feel like those are both great things that any teacher can learn from. It's not just him, it's not just me, but I feel like we can always improve, and there's always room for improvement. And I want to be the best teacher I can be when I reach my students finally. I want my passion for teaching and my passion for children to be evident in my interactions with my students on a daily basis. I want to give them the best that I can, and I feel like I've learned a great deal of strategies and tools to incorporate with my students when the time arrives. I am looking forward to teaching, and I'm looking forward to interacting with students, and I'm very grateful for what I've learned from his class and from every other class that I've been in for the past couple of weeks. And I am looking forward to becoming a teacher. So I will definitely take this experience and add it to my reservoir, and I will incorporate it the best I know how, learn from it, add on to it, and just try to be the best teacher I can possibly be. Thank you so very much for watching. You have a great day.